Hi, everyone. Oh, good, it's on. Good morning, and welcome to the Autodesk Vision Series. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Warren Trezevant, and I am the product manager for Maya Rigging and Animation. I come from a long history of animation. I was a character animator at Pixar Animation Studios for over 17 years, where I worked on, I think, over 8 feature films, a number of shorts, did some animatronic work, and even built a stroboscopic zoetrope. So a big fan of animation. I've been at Autodesk for about 3.5 years now, and it's been a really cool opportunity to take all of that production knowledge and that experience in animation and work with the amazing developers and designers at Autodesk to really make great animation tools. And we're going to be talking about some of them today. And with me on stage is Daryl.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Daryl Obert, and I've been involved with Maya since its inception, and I'm going to be driving the application a bit today and helping Warren show you some of the exciting things that we've been working on over the last little while here.
Nice. So this is actually my second Vision series in a couple of years. The last time I was on stage was 2 years ago, and at that time, I talked about what we wanted to do with Maya to make Maya a more artist-driven tool, a tool that can be engaged with by artists for them to feel creative. And in that presentation, we talked about 4 things that we were focusing on as part of our goals with Maya. The first thing we talked about was making Maya fast. Like, what could we do to make sure that Maya stayed at the speed of an artist's creativity? Another thing we talked about was making Maya easy to use. Sometimes when an artist approached Maya, we felt it was a little daunting. It felt like not artistic enough, and we really wanted to open it up and make it feel like a fun place to be for artists to work. Another thing we looked at was talking about making Maya more connected to the outside world and making sure that Maya was part of the larger ecosystem of a production, of working with other artists, working with a marketplace, and knowing that Maya was only a small part of the larger artistic whole. And the fourth thing we talked about was great rigs, because we know that Maya is a fantastic place to animate characters, and to do that, the cornerstone is great rigs. And we know that this is a very important part, and we want to make sure we get it right. So those were the things I talked about 2 years ago, and we've been doing a lot of work since then, and I wanted to give you a quick update on that work. In that time, we focused on 2 of those 4 kind of pillars that I talked about. So the thing that we've been working on for the last 2 years has been about making Maya fast and making Maya easier to use. So let's talk about some of the things that we've done. The main thing that we heard back in the day was just how slow Maya was. It was so hard to work and feel creative. And so we worked with a lot of our customers to get scenes that they were being slowed down by, rigs that were slowing them down, and we just looked at all of these scenes and really worked to make Maya fast. In Maya 2016, we multi-threaded Maya, giving it parallel evaluation. Since then, we've delivered GPU evaluation, and in Maya 2017, which came out earlier this week, we're delivering an invisibility evaluator. So all of these things are there to make Maya faster for you. And the best part is we wanted it to be an out-of-the-box experience. We didn't want you to have to set things or do anything. We just wanted you to open up Maya and to benefit from all of these performance enhancements. And we're really proud of the work. We think it's a really neat, we think it's great that we can make Maya faster for you. And this allows you now to do a little bit more creative things, like you can now work on more complex scenes or have multiple characters in your scene, because it not only makes your rigs faster, but the entire scene. So we're really happy with this work, and we still have more to do. So we'll be sure to give you updates as we continue moving this work forward. On the easy-to-use side, we have been working on making rigging easier to use and animation easier to use. On the rigging side, we introduced a quick rig tool, and this is a tool that allows you to take a mesh or any series of meshes. Here we have a character with a helmet and the body, and either through a single click or through a guided steps, bind that mesh to an HIK rig so you can just start animating like almost immediately. And one of the things we loved about this is this actually came out of like an internal hackathon that we had, and one of our developers realized that this was something that was slowing artists down, like getting their mesh and getting a rig attached and get going. So they built this prototype. We saw the value in it, and we now have delivered it in Maya for everyone to benefit from. Another thing we've done on the rigging side is delivered a pose-space deformer workflow. So this is to help artists with shape authoring when setting up their rigs, or later on when doing shot correctives. And so there's now a new shape editor, and this replaces the blend shape editor, and we think it offers artists a lot more flexibility. Not only that, but when you use the great sculpting tools in the modeling tool set, it really allows you to do much more with your rigs, making the rigs much higher quality and easier for you to work with. So those are some of the things that we've been working on the rigging side. But today what we wanted to focus on is what we've been doing on the animation side. And one of the things we've delivered in Maya 2017 is a brand new editor called the Time Editor. And this is a non-linear editor that is a replacement for tracks that allows artists to do non-destructive workflows. And one of the things we've been doing is looking at other packages like Motion Builder, Softimage, the Tracks Editor, and really trying to figure out what we could do to make this style of broad stroke animation workflow much easier to use. Because we recognize that people want to bring in animation, experiment, iterate, try out different things, and get it in front of their leads to figure out what their creative goal is and how best to get there. And we think it's pretty awesome. So we wanted to share it with you today. We have Daryl, who's going to bring it up, and we're going to do a live demo and just show you some of the workflows that this has. So,
I'm going to say it is pretty awesome. I'm beyond thinking. I'm a believer now. So let's check it out. So this is Maya 2017. We're really excited to be able to talk about it today with you guys. Obviously, what we're looking at here is a scene file that was used in those slides. And what we want to do is we want to begin working with the animation data that already exists in this file at a slightly higher level, using the time editor to do that. You'll also notice that Maya has been configured into a new workspace specifically for doing an animation style workflow. So we have this new workspace that allows you to really quickly, with a single click, get Maya set up to do the type of work you're trying to do. So if you're doing XGen work, or you're setting up renders, or you're doing animation work, you can quickly switch between all these different workspaces to get it configured to a task-specific setup, which we have here. So we got the animation in our scene. If I start to scrub through here, you can see that we obviously have the same three characters. There's a few rigs in here, and what we want to do is we want to get some of that data into our non-linear editing environment, and that's very simple to do. You can see it's actually giving us guidance down here telling us, you want to work with this in a non-linear editor? Well, you can import stuff from a file, you could bring it in from the scene, or you could drag and drop it in from the content browser. So for this example, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab this main character, which happens to be an HIK rig, and we're just going to go ahead and say add content from the scene. So as soon as we do that, we now have a time clip in our nonlinear editor. And this allows us to do things that you would expect with a clip in the editor. So if we want, we can go ahead and just start obviously scrubbing through our time slider here, but if we wanted to change or start to dice this guy up and maybe blend it together between a few different clips, it's very simple to do. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and start to find a spot where I want to maybe have another version of this guy doing this shooting move. So the idea behind all this animation is there's these futuristic racers. They get launched off sort of like aircraft off of an aircraft carrier, and the movements and the kind of orchestrated launch routines that the guys called shooters on aircraft carriers do is basically what this motion capture is. And there's a very kind of all the hand signals mean stuff, and this shooting stuff, when he goes down and touches the deck, is a very kind of choreographed move, and each guy has his own style. So we did a couple different takes of footage, the reference footage from YouTube that we got of this, and we want to use a different clip on the back end of this. So it's really simple to do. All I have to do is go in here and find a spot where I may want to start to cut this clip into two, select the clip, and then just go up here and start using some of these tools that are kind of dropped on this icon bar. So what we're going to do is just grab the split tool. So we've now got our clip set up to have a little cut in there that we can substitute the middle section. So to do that, all we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just go to our content browser and find some content that we want to begin using. So I've got this nice little preview that happens here, which I think is pretty slick that you guys are able to get sort of this nice workflow with these little animated previews and stuff just included with Maya icons. Instead of just being a Maya icon, we've got that.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important for animators to know what the motion is before they bring it into the scene and have to work in it in the scene. So this is a nice way to kind of preview what you're going to get before you get it.
Yeah, it's super helpful, super cool. So all we have to do is just drag and drop this guy down. So we'll middle mouse button, drag and drop that clip in there. You'll notice that it's set up to work with namespaces. We'll see that a bit more in depth a bit later in the presentation. But we'll just go ahead and we'll say apply and close. And we now have this new clip that's kind of dropped in here. Another thing that's really pretty slick about this is you can notice that there's some coloring information going on. So what's the idea behind all the coloring information on these bars, Warren?
In the clips?
Well, no, not in the clips, but how when I drag this, it kind
see.
of gives me a nice focused region of what's happening in my time slider.
Yeah, well, one of the things we really wanted to do was make sure that all the spaces in Maya were interactive. So I don't know if you've seen Daryl do it, but he's been able to just drag the current time around, and this is a way to just interactively drive the play range. So this is just to make sure that you don't have to go to different parts of Maya to do different things. You can just be right there, interactively grab it, and just stay focused on the work that you want to be doing.
All right, so what we've got here is we've got this guy sort of doing this hand motion, and what I'm going to do is kind of move forward here into this clip, and we want to replace it. We'll probably just trim this clip back to that section. So I can just highlight that clip and just use the trim button to quickly pull that back. If I wanted to, I could also adjust the spacing or the timing of a clip just by grabbing the end of it. But you have kind of multiple ways of interacting with these clips, which also makes it very fast and fluid to work with, which is kind of key.
Yeah, and I think we really looked at a lot of nonlinear editing workflows and really tried to make it feel like you're just editing film clips or audio clips. So you're using the same kind of visual language and the same kind of interactive language so you can take advantage of workflows that you may have done in other similar packages.
So you'll notice that these guys are they were different motion capture takes, so they're in different spaces, right? So the first thing we want to do is get these clips sort of lined up to each other. So to do that, we're going to select the body part, and I'll just go ahead and hit my translate key so you can see what we have picked there, and we're going to specify that's going to be the fixed point that we want to do a match on. So we'll bring up our matching tools, and you can see that it's gone ahead and grab that foot automatically for me. We're going to match the previous clip. We'll do in-betweens. I like to have gravity mode turned on, and we'll just go ahead and we'll apply that. So as soon as I do that now, you can see that that foot is pinned in between those clips, which is exactly what we want. It's in the right space now. But there's a pop, right? They're obviously, they're not the same movement. So there's going to be some interpolation that we want to have happen in between those. So to do that, it's really just a simple process of dragging and dropping those clips over top of each other. So now you can see as we kind of do that guy, that match is off a little bit, right? Because we've now changed where that blending's happening. So all we're going to do is rerun that match one more time to try to take into space and have a match in between those two clips. So you have a lot of options when you're dealing with the matching. And the idea here is it's going to get really, really a good result out of the box pretty quickly. So we'll just match that guy a little bit better. Oops, looks like I didn't grab it there. Let's redo that guy and make sure we're set to in between clips, and we are. We'll apply that guy, and we'll just kind of move forward there and kind of pull that back a little bit. So now that we've got that little blending happening there, that guy's looking kind of cool. The next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to have him go back to this move. So he kind of does this ducking move, but I liked how this guy did the ducking move, and then he has that kind of little fist pump. He's pretty psyched about the ship taking off, and then he walks off. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and find a region here where we can begin doing that clip. So maybe as he starts to stand up, we're going to try to grab a region where this guy starts to stand up, and that's going to be our same little spot, our same kind of area that we want to do our transitions for. So we'll trim this guy back. Very similar workflow to what we did before. We're going to go up here and figure out which foot we want to have stuck. We'll maybe grab that guy and just do another match on this to the previous clip. So we'll apply and close that. So now we've got that guy kind of in that same spot there, and we'll just put a little transition, a little blend there, so that we have this little kind of hop happening, that guy kind of doing his little fist pump. So, we've done some basic edits here, some basic blending between those clips, all very standard things that you would expect to do in a nonlinear edited environment for animation data. And now we want to begin, maybe making some modifications or some tweaks to that movement. So how do we approach doing something like that?
That's a good question, Daryl.
How
about you show us?
All right, well, it's pretty straightforward.
There's so many.
There are lots of options, and we're going to try to share with them a few of them with you today. So what I'm going to do is I want to have this character as he kind of does this little move and kind of comes down there and touches the ground. We're just going to do something that's very obvious and easy to see. We're going to make a modification to that with an override. We're going to do a layer override on top of this. So you just go ahead and grab the node that you want to have added into that override. So for this example, we'll just grab this controller that's driving his waist. Pretty straightforward. We'll grab the clip that we want to have associated with this layer override, and we'll just go ahead and we'll simply create that layer override. So now that we've done that, what we have here is you can see that it's grabbed the translation and rotation for those nodes. Now, if I just wanted translation and I didn't want rotation, I could have selected those in my channel box, and when I created that override, it would look to the selection in your channel box to decide which attributes are going to get shoved into that. And at any time, if you've done an override and you didn't have the right selection of attributes, or you later decided you needed another attribute, you have the flexibility of going back and just right-clicking on top of the clip and saying, you know, add selected or remove selected. So you can sort of push information in and out of these override layers that you've done. So pretty cool, pretty straightforward stuff. So what we're going to do on this guy is we're just going to go ahead and just set a couple bounding keys on this. So we'll grab that piece of geometry, or that controller. We'll highlight the layer that we want the keying information that we're about to do to be inserted into, and we'll just simply hit the S key. So as soon as I do that, you can see that we have some keyframes on top of that, and it's showing me all of those channels have been keyed, which is kind of cool. It's almost like a dope sheet inside of here, really.
And what's nice is if you close that back up, you can then on the left-hand side hit that toggle and see the keys in there, so you get this kind of summary view. So we offer you the opportunity of seeing the entire thing as kind of just an overall container, or to see what the summary is of all the contents underneath. So you can see where all the keyframes are. So we really feel that this allows the animators to get a lot of information about the data that they're working with.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really sweet about it is, you know, like obviously I've got those 3 keyframes inside of there, and if I want, I can start dragging that key around. Like I don't have to go out to a graph editor or a dope sheet to actually do that. I have the ability to make these keyframe level edits directly inside of here. And the other thing that's really pretty cool about this is if you come down here and you start to expand this guy out, you can see, you know, every single node, how many driven channels are in it, and you can basically dive in here, and if you want to move one finger or something, you could just work your way down through the hierarchy, get to the keyframes on that one finger and move them, which is, you know, again, giving you the ability to get very granular if you want to.
Yeah.
But you can always work at the super high level, and if you need to dig into it, it's there, and it's there in a very easy to I think you guys did a great job. I mean, it's easy to understand. I got it. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. So now that we've done some editing information on here, we've also got, you know, all the things you'd expect. The ability to say, you know, I don't want to see that movement, or I want to solo that movement, sort of muting switches, soloing switches, which is all the types of things that you'd want. So now that we've got that guy looking pretty cool, you'll notice that this is all well and good, but there's a problem. This guy's doing his, like, you know, he's doing his dance. He's signaling his guy saying they're okay, and when he does that shooting move, that's normally when, you know, the ship's going to get blasted off the steam catapult and off they go. So our timing's, it's not cool, right? It's not at all in the right space. And we've kind of diced this guy up, so I don't want to have to try to grab all of these clips and possibly slide them around. I could do that, but there's a chance I might miss one. I mess my timing up. It's just not that great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just grab these 3 clips. When I grab this clip right here, it's going to bring the layer override with it, and we're just going to create a group out of those guys. So now I have a single grouped hierarchy of those clips that I can then use to retime my shot. So I can just kind of scrub back in time here to where the ship starts to take off. Let's kind of frame this back a little bit here, somewhere like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say, all right, right before that ship takes off, that's right around the time that he should be coming down there and touching the deck and giving the signal to go ahead and launch yourself. So we'll do something like that. And you can see that we've now retimed all of those clips, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and what's really nice about this grouping mechanism is that you can actually nest it and do operations on it. So if we wanted to take all of that motion and just speed it up or scale it, we could just put it in a group and do these high-level operations. We could then add some more motion and then group that and do levels on top of that. So at any stage, you can group, you can put layers on, or you can dive into it and see what's inside the group. And another nice thing is if you grab that middle clip and just move it left and right, is you'll notice that all the override edits you did on that clip are connected to that clip. So any kind of movement in time that you do, those edits will always stay with that clip and move with it. So it allows you to really have all the motion you've created, whether it's the motion you brought in, overrides that you've created. You get to kind of really bundle it up in a way that is meaningful to the work that you're trying to do. So it really, we were saying earlier, there's a lot of things you can do, and this is some of the flexibility that we wanted to offer artists, the ability to work at a very high level, zoom in, work on details, organize the data in a way that's meaningful for the specific work that you're trying to do, and through this flexibility, offer the artist a way to quickly get their vision on screen.
Yeah, and you kind of breezed over it really quickly, but I'm going to go back and just reiterate one of the things that you said. You can put layers on top of groups.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you've got 3 clips and you want to do an override that spans over top of 3 clips, you can do that simply by grabbing the group and doing a layer override. So now you can see I have a layer override that would let me make an edit that happens across multiple clips and edits that are sub-nested in that. So that's like crazy, crazy powerful.
Yeah.
Super, super cool. So now that we've done some stuff like that, let's go ahead and look at a couple of other things that we can do. Well, another thing that we can do that I think is pretty sweet is we can do composition. So what's the idea behind compositions?
Yeah, so one of the things we realized is that sometimes you may have a lot of things in your scene, but you don't really want to, you might not want to deal with all of that with the tracks that you have. And so you might want to kind of just group them at a higher level. And so the compositions sort of say that you can, if you open it up or create a new composition,
We'll duplicate the one that we have here.
Yeah.
So we'll make composition 2, which will be an alternate version.
Yeah, and so what you can do now is do work on this while leaving the original composition how you left it. So if you wanted to do some experimentation or explore some things or bring some new characters in and do like, I'm going to do the foreground crowds in this composition, and in this composition I'm going to do the animals running in the background, but I wanted to kind of keep them separate. The compositions allow you to kind of store the information dynamically so that you can just switch between them. So if you need a review for one thing, you can keep it in one composition, review for another thing in another composition, and again, it offers that flexibility for you to organize the work that is most meaningful for you.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been using it for is just versions.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying version A, version B. I want to have a couple things stacked up and ready to go so that when my director comes by and I want to show him, I tried a couple things out, which one do you like? I have them right there. I'm not loading files. It's just all completely non-destructive because of the way the source clips work. Like everything that we're doing in here is actually editing data on source clips. So it's a very, like the original unedited data is always just sitting inside of here in our outliner that we could drag it back down. You could drag that clip down without any edits done to it at all into another composition.
Yeah, and so this is again like other nonlinear systems or editing systems where we always store the original data. So everything you're doing in the time editor is just edits on that original data. So it's always untouched, and you can always reuse it, drag it onto another character, use it for something else, use it multiple times in a scene, but it will always just be pulling from that one source. So it really, again, offers a lot of flexibility.
All right, so let's look at another workflow, and this one we're going to look at is the ability to kind of layer different movements on top of each other and see the in-betweens between the kind of an additive layering workflow. So we've got this other character in here. You can see that we've got the skeleton data turned on. So we're going to go ahead and create a clip from that guy. And let's see, it's this dude up here. It's this wingman. So we'll grab him. It's not the Geo. We'll grab that guy. And we'll just create a new clip from that. So now we've got that animation in there. And I've got an alternate version of this guy with his arms out that I'm just going to drag in from our content browser. We'll drag and drop this guy inside of here, and we'll just stack these guys on top of each other. And you can see that when we turn the ghosting on, what we're getting. So if we turn ghosting on for track 2 and track 3, and you can kind of zoom in here and you'll kind of notice what's happening here, we're actually getting the blended result between those two.
Yeah, and this is a workflow that we saw in Softimage that a lot of people really liked, and it's very similar to audio software where the tracks are all additive. And so here we have 2 clips stacked on top of each other of the same character. And so instead of one overriding the other, they add together. And so when you have the 2 together, what it does is it blends so it gives you the middle position.
And what else is this? I mean, there's so many little subtle things that are just like, oh man, they nailed it. It's so pure. It's so beautiful. When you keyframe stuff like this weight coming on and off, this is just cool. I got to show you this. So if we set a keyframe there, it's zeroed out, right? We move forward a little bit of time, put this up to a value of 1. We'll go ahead and we'll keyframe that guy on there. Notice that I get a graph representation of the weighting of that clip. And that happens in all of the clips, which is just so super cool. And another thing that's really nice about this is notice that the tweaks that are inside of here, the tracks will gray out or based on whether or not they're currently active or keyed on in certain states. Yep. So there's a lot of visual feedback happening inside of this. And I think that was, I keep finding little things where I'm like, oh, that's slick.
Yeah.
You guys are doing some good work. All right, so the final thing that we want to talk about, or actually not the final thing, we have extra time today, so we're going to talk about a lot. The next thing that we're going to dive into is post-based workflows.
Yeah.
So what's the idea behind this?
Well, this is sometimes if you're early on in your process and you don't really know where you're going to go and you just have a bunch of poses, or you maybe have a bunch of animation and you want to pull some poses from it, you want to kind of do what the dope sheet does and kind of bring them in, look at the timing, retime them, and just work at a very high level. So the idea is that you can kind of bring single poses in and kind of get that dope sheet style work, like kind of a stepped key workflow.
So what I've done is we didn't capture hands with this. So what I've done is I've just saved out a couple of poses, saved them out, and to save stuff, by the way, it's just a simple right click, export selected. You come up here, you can basically tell it what do you want it to be, am I a binary file, FBX or an ASCII file, and this is also the environment where you create those little play blast clips, which are I think I like seeing stuff other than just a little icon.
Yeah.
Icons don't do anything for me.
Well, especially when it's animation, you need motion.
I agree. So let's move forward here. Let's go ahead and drag in. We'll drag in just a hand-closed pose. We'll drop that down. Now this is interesting, right? So what I've got set up on my character is the joints on the hands are the exact same name, right? So these poses have the ability to use a namespace. So if you basically have a right namespace and a left namespace, then the joints underneath that after the namespace are the same. So that allows us to repurpose a pose that we've made for the left-hand side onto the right-hand side or vice versa, which I was pretty happy about. I didn't have to do the work twice. So we've got a pose inside of there, and while the guy's doing that dance, we'll have him just kind of holding his pointer finger out there. We'll kind of drop that guy in. We'll apply and close that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll just drag and drop the shooting finger inside of there. So now we've got these kind of key poses sort of dropped in here. And you'll notice as I scrub through my time slider, we get that, let's pull out here a little bit. We get that step. So actually I want this to happen while he's doing his dance up there. So you can see those fingers just moved, right? So he does his salute, he does his, actually we're going to change that. We want him doing that while he's doing his crazy dance. You guys know what dance that is? I had one with the Macarena. It was kind of funny. These dudes actually do this. It's crazy. They're like these guys are out there like, in danger, but they're dancing. It's bananas. Kooky guys.
When they could have been animators.
They could have been, but they chose to go live on a ship. I don't know what they were thinking. So anyway, we've got that pose there. And then obviously we're going to go ahead and as he starts to drop down here, he's going to do his salute. Maybe he'll come down here. Actually, we'll put that salute here. That'll be cool. He'll go to the right when he does that salute. We'll put his hand back. And notice that I can just drag and drop these guys around, get them where I want them. So he does his salute. He goes to the flat hand. Then he does his little his point kind of gesture down there. And after all that's done, if I want to get transitions between those, all I have to do is grab them and then just create a transition. So we can just grab all of those guys, create a transition. So now we're going to have this nice smooth interpolation happening between all of these poses. So you can see he kind of does his point, goes to a salute, then he transitions his fingers back down to the shooting gun position, and then off he goes. He does his little move here. And just to finish this off, we'll just grab the fist, we'll drag and drop this inside of here, and we'll change the namespace on this guy from right to left. We'll apply and close that. So now you can see as soon as I do that, that other hand basically uses those same key poses. So we've done all that, and don't forget, we have our original composition back here that's going to be an alternate, right? So it's going to have the alternate moves here. Now the hands were included as in those separate tracks, so those are going to transfer in between both of those clips. But if we wanted to, we could isolate those out, put them on their own composition, like you said, and just have those hands isolated out just on that one. So the final thing, or the next thing that we want to talk about, is sound.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the time editor, and this is something I didn't highlight early on when Daryl was doing this, but unlike the tracks editor, you don't need to set up any character sets, you don't need to do any prep work, you can just bring it in. It will take anything that you want to put animation curves on. So they can be rigs, it can be cameras, it can be lights. If it has motion, you can drag it in and retime it. The other thing we can do is also do audio, because we know how important that is for animation production and getting your work to be successful. So Daryl brought in some sound here, and we're gonna see what it's like. So you can have this environment where you can mix anything that has an anim curve with audio.
Yeah, so I actually brought in 2 clips here, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn that down a little bit, hopefully, so we don't destroy everyone's ears early in the morning. So we've kind of got, this, so we'll let this play back here, and the last thing that we'll do, you got the warm up. So that's pretty slick, the ability to get that audio in there, and then obviously you could trim this, retime this, you can do things like that to it. And you did mention that you can bring in things other than rigs, right? It's any animated data, right? So if I wanted to get my camera, and we'll just go ahead and we'll look through that shot there, I can drag in, or I can just create a clip out of that camera move, and now we've got that guy sort of hanging out inside of here also. And obviously if I want to change the position of that camera or the timing of where we're at along that little, I'm just doing a little kind of sweep across this stuff here. But that is, that's the time editor in a nutshell. Tons and tons of power inside of it. Thank you for working on it. You guys have been banging away on this for a long time, and I know that we're all very happy to get it out there in the hands of animators. One final thing is that we didn't really talk about that I think, since we have a little time here, that we might want to mention is the graph editor, right? The improvements that were made to the graph editor.
Yeah, so one of the things we really wanted to do was make sure that the animator environment was cohesive and similar. So this aligned with another thing that we've been hearing from a lot of our customers was that the graph editor was slow, that they put a lot of data in there. It really bogged down. So we went into the graph editor and ripped out the back end, and it's now all GPU accelerated. And while we were at it, we wanted to make sure that the experience in the time editor and the graph editor felt similar so that artists felt like they were working in the same environment. So we've gone in and done a visual overhaul on the graph editor. So you get all the power you had before, but you have now the interactive current time again. You have the play sliders, and we've made it so you can just left mouse click on a key just to move it. Everything is unlocked by default, so you can just grab tangent handles, move them around. We really want to make it so you can just get in and just start playing with this stuff really quickly, easy, fast, and make sure that the experience feels cohesive between everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and there's lots of little subtle things in here. Like you'll notice when I grab these handles and I've deviated from them being flat or auto or linear, they change, the kind of draw becomes hollow or solid based on that. And obviously, as Warren said, by default the tangents are free, which is, thank you.
Yeah.
Pretty basic thing. But you get visual feedback. Like if I go to a braked tangent mode, the line's broken, so it's dashed. If I go back to a locked tangent, they go back to being solid. If I re-step this down to an auto key, you can see if I grab that keyframe and kind of clamp that guy back down, it goes back to being hollow, saying that it's in its default pose. There's no deviation there. Another thing that's really slick about it is if you do something like if you want to grab a curve, they're turned off by default because a lot of people,
Yeah. We were hearing that a lot of people were accidentally grabbing the entire curve, so they had to do multiple selections. And so what we did is we put in an option where you can make it so you require a hotkey to grab it. So that means that you can, just when you're working day to day, you can just grab keys and tangents, but when you grab a curve, you can just use a hotkey because it's not used as much. But that's something you can always turn back the default back on to get the previous behavior. But again, we had heard a lot from our customers, and that's really one of the goals of all of this, is we've been listening to our users, our customers, the artists out there about how they would like to work, and that's what's been driving all of this, is hearing them want to have more flexibility, more ability to be creative, and we are trying to give it to you.
Yeah, and another thing that I thought was I was pretty happy about, because I'm always like digging around, where is that? The show infinite? I can never find it in the menu structure. So by default, if you do something like change the looping pattern or something, it automatically, I just used an icon to do that, it automatically toggles on show infinite. So it's a really subtle little thing, but I don't know how many hours of my life I've wasted looking for show infinite, and now I don't have to worry about that, which makes me so excited. So I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We'll jump back out to our deck here and just walk you through a couple of the things, the high-level things that we checked out.
Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, it was an amazing team who helped put all this work in here, and it was all driven by what we were hearing from the artists we've been talking to. And we're really happy with what we have, and I hope that you get a chance to check it out and see how it fits within your workflow and how it can accelerate your creativity as an artist. And we've been working on this for the last 2 years, and so this fits in the larger dream that I talked about at the last Vision series a few years ago. But we still have a lot more work to do. We're excited about exploring what we can do with those connected workflows and how we can make the connections to Shotgun more valuable to artists, what we can do to connect to other things, and continue to focus on what we can do to make great rigs and make those easy to use. So it's been great coming in front of everyone 2 years ago and sharing what the big dream is, and having this opportunity now, a few years on, to give you an update of the work that we've been doing to strive toward those goals. And hopefully in the future, I'll be able to come up here again and give you another update on all the work that our amazing team is doing. And as always, we would love any of your feedback, and it's all about us listening to you and you telling us what's working for you and what's not. And together, we will continue to make great animation and rigging tools for us to be creative with and make amazing pictures for people. So thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, and thank you to HP and NVIDIA for providing us with super crazy fast computers, and thank you everybody for your time. I know we went a little over, but we wanted to make sure you got a good look at what we've been working on. Cheers, everyone. Have a great show.